lead singer of Soul Asylum is Dave Pimer, who joins us right now on the line. Dave, I appreciate you taking some time to join us. How are you?
Hey, man, I'm pretty good. How are you?
Doing okay under the circumstances, Dave. I guess the first question I would ask you is this. How are you holding up during this pandemic? I mean, obviously these are unprecedented times. What are you doing to kind of kill the time, and how are you and your friends and your family holding up?
Well, we almost finished our tour. We had about 3 or 4 gigs left, and we ended it in San Diego. And, then we came back to Minneapolis, and we'd been in Minneapolis. You get kind of used to being, cabin fever and all that. You get used to being holed up in the wintertime. So,
right.
I was kind of, expecting to. When you finish a tour, you kind of want to be alone for a couple days, but not this long.
Yeah, that's true. This has been a little long, but I talked to a lot of different types of musicians and entertainers, and some of them are doing different things to pass time. I mean, do you write more music now? I mean, are you playing the guitar and just coming up with different melodies and lyrics and stuff in your head during this time more than usual, or is it just kind of business as usual and you're just going about your daily routine, just not being able to be out there?
Well, I mean, I have a roommate who's a singer-songwriter too, so we play almost every day. And he's also a painter, and so am I. So, I mean, we managed to keep busy with the arts and crafts and things like that. I'm learning how to use all these guitar effect pedals. That's one of my projects. It's like getting around to things that you've been putting off. Sometimes it's a good time to get those things done.
Yeah.
Because there's like nothing else to do.
That's true. Yep.
So, Dave, obviously your band formed back in the early 80s, but of course you came really to prominence really in the early 90s. And of course we all understand that was a time period where it was just magical from a music standpoint, whether it was bands from Seattle, of course, your band being from the Midwest. I'm a Michigan guy, born and raised. I was a huge Sponge fan back in the day. Obviously, I was a big fan also of other Midwestern bands like Smashing Pumpkins out of Chicago. But what would you think about that whole time period right there in say late 80s, early 90s, where it was almost like there was like this transition as far as music and the popularity of music and the kind of music that your band did?
Yeah, it's strange to think about now. I mean, it just it kind of was time. I mean, like everything on the radio was rock bands with guitars, and it certainly isn't that way now. It was a good experience, I think, for everyone involved. I mean, there's a lot of great bands that were getting attention that wouldn't have, and a lot of music that was, I don't know if heavy is the right word, but it seemed to have a lot of
edginess,
a lot of meaning to it, as opposed to a lot of other things, I guess.
Yeah.
Did you mind that word grunge, because that was something that was used, for a lot of those bands back then, particularly alternative bands, right? That would have, and they had a certain look, a certain style, and of course a lot of the music was great, but it was also kind of in that realm. Did you have a problem with it being called kind of the grunge era?
Yeah, I mean, I never really took much interest in trying to categorize music, but I mean, I suppose you could say that we came before grunge. I mean, we certainly came before they started calling it grunge. But I don't know. I mean, I'm not. We're a grunge band. I mean, I sort of associate it with tuning the guitars down a little bit, which we don't do very much. And the Seattle thing seems more grungy than the Minneapolis thing, but
Yeah, I agree.
But what do I know, right? I mean, come on.
Well, I think you know a lot. You've been around doing this for a long time. He's Dave Pirner, lead singer of Soul Asylum, new album, Hurry Up and Wait. So you mentioned you're not big on categorizing music and all that stuff, but I have to ask you, as someone who has been doing this for a long time and as successful as yourself, when you hear the people in the world like the Britney Spears, the Cardi B's, those who are making enormous amounts of money, they don't play one musical instrument. And again, I'm not trying to get you to bash anybody, but some of these musicians, they lip sync. I mean, J-Lo did a show on the Strip, and all due respect to her, she's very beautiful, very talented. But, she goes on the Strip, she'll make $500,000 one night, and she doesn't sing one song. She's lip syncing. So, I mean, I don't like to call that music. I call that they're entertainers. It's not my thing. I mean, does it bother you at all when some people consider them musicians and label them that?
Well, it's funny. I never really thought about it that way, but it is kind of like all-star wrestling, Vince McMahon or whatever his name is, he decided to call it wrestling entertainment because it wasn't really a sport. I never really made that analogy before, but yeah, I mean the Super Bowl halftime show was pretty hilarious. You could sort of tell no one was actually singing and no one was actually playing, and I mean that sort of thing has been going on since God knows when. I mean, when it happened to Milli Vanilli, I don't know if you remember that, but
Sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yep. It was a big deal, but now it's just sort of common.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So,
Do you remember
when the Electric Light Orchestra came out and played in the, I don't know, must have been the 80s, and they had some strings on tape or something, and the local paper just blasted them.
Yeah.
And now that's all pretty much.
But Dave, when did it change? When did it change, Dave? Because I remember in the 90s, I'd tune on MTV, and if it wasn't one of your music videos that was all over MTV, it was somebody else's, right? They were playing music. When did it change? I mean, do you feel like the boy band era, the TRL, Carson Daly era, kind of changed MTV into this reality television? Let's stop playing music videos, because I think in a way MTV hurt music when that happened.
Yeah, I mean, it's been going on for a long time. I mean, the first time I saw a track show was Grace Jones, and that was a long, long, long time ago. I mean, I think people like Madonna and people have been doing this for a long time, lip syncing and kind of playing to tracks and kind of, when did it change? I don't know. People have probably been faking it forever, There's probably been people going out on stage and singing and having somebody behind the stage doing the actual singing. I mean, that kind of stuff, I bet it's been going on forever. It's just, I mean, nowadays it just doesn't seem like they even bother to try to conceal it, but it's very common, and I guess people don't care, Otherwise, people wouldn't go to these shows.
Yeah. Yeah.
To Dave and Brian, what I would do? I would pinpoint it right around just after 2000, early 2000s. I think when Autotune started to come into the mix, and you started to have artists who it wasn't even their real voice. You know what I mean? There was opportunities out there from a music standpoint where it's not even just your genuine, like obviously Dave, when you sing, we're going to hear your voice. When other singers from rock bands sing, it's their voice. But there's a lot of other genres where that's just not the case anymore.
Yeah, I mean, that's the weird thing is that, with the dawn of Autotune, people still seem to play to tracks and pre-recorded vocals, and now they got this thing where they can kind of cheat, but they don't even, I mean, they must be terrible.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we see it even in Vegas with some of these local performers all the time. Some of them are very talented. Some of them take the easy way out. I want to ask you about this, Dave. because you're no stranger to being in the tabloids, right? I mean, you had a relationship with you were a celebrity in yourself, and you were with Winona Ryder. You had that relationship, but how do you think that would have taken place now? I'm talking from a media perspective, because yeah, the paparazzi would follow you around a little bit back then when you were in that relationship. That was years ago. How do you think that would have been too much for you now to have to deal with that sort of stuff, just from the media perspective and how they would have followed you and handled that? Because I don't know, maybe you could take us back to that time. Did you have to deal with that back then, and how much do you think you would have had to have dealt with it now as opposed to years ago?
God, that's kind of an interesting question, because I mean it was before the internet really was as substantial as it is now, and I don't know how that affects any of that. It must, though. I don't know if that means there's more people out there with cameras, or there's just a lot more trash talk and stuff like that.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's such a relief to walk away from it. I mean,
did you feel that way?
I mean,
there was
people jumping out from behind corners with cameras and stuff.
Yeah.
And, I don't think any of that's changed.
Did you kind of feel that way when, obviously you want your music, and your music has continued to do very well, but was it almost like an escape for you? I mean, you guys were one of the most popular bands on the planet at one point. I mean, years after that, was it almost like you said, almost like a relief to be out of the limelight just a little bit and to be able to do your own thing without all the pressures with record labels and having hit songs and all that stuff? But was it kind of like a pressure release for you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I moved to New Orleans, and I kind of was drawn to New Orleans because it seemed to be operating kind of independent of the music business. There's something very pure about the music in New Orleans that was a good perspective. It was a good escape for me to get into that scene. So yeah, I mean, you can avoid it. You don't. But yeah, I mean, the answer is yes. We were so preoccupied with just, press and promotion and photo shoots and all that. It seems to be getting less and less musical. We'd go over to Europe and we'd do a tour of radio stations. I'm like, what the hell are we doing all the way over here and not playing music,
Yeah.
So to that effect, yeah, I felt like once I sort of let it go, it was much easier for me to focus on the music that I wanted to be writing, and not this like, you need a lot of singles. I don't know. I don't really think about that too much anymore.
Yeah. Do you remember just back in the day walking down a red carpet of the Oscars? Like, I mean, do you ever think about stuff like that anymore? And wow, look where I am right now. I'm able to do my own thing, and like you said, not having those type of pressures.
Yeah.
I mean, do you think about that back in the day, walking down the Oscars or the red carpet, and now just being able to do your own thing?
Yeah. No, I don't miss any of that. I mean, I really. I don't even know how to look back on it as anything other than, really a really interesting experience. You live and you learn. I mean, I don't need to be on a red carpet anywhere. It's really not
right.
my thing.
Right.
So Dave,
Yeah.
So, Dave, you mentioned, of course, speaking of looking back, you spent time in Louisiana. Obviously, you're a Minnesota guy. Who were the influences on you growing up as far as the music business, the people that you looked up to and tried to emulate?
Well, I don't know. I was a radio kid when I was a little kid, and then I got into jazz music. I played the trumpet in school, and then I kind of got into metal. Like,
nice.
And then I kind of discovered the Ramones, and then I switched from trumpet to guitar.
Mm-hmm.
And, the Clash and the Sex Pistols and all those bands became
that's good stuff, man.
kind of
That's
prominent
great stuff
in my life.
So, Dave, I have to ask you to reminisce a little bit more here when it comes to Las Vegas. You guys have done a ton of shows here in Las Vegas. In fact, you were here a few years ago, actually. I caught you guys. So I wanted to ask you if you have any fun stories, crazy spots, hot, fun nights, or any hot spots you like to go to when you come out here to Las Vegas. Anything that you can remember?
Well, I just remember last time we were in town, which wasn't that long ago, we couldn't find a restaurant after 10 p.m., and I was like, what the hell's going on? This is Las Vegas.
What?
Wait, did you guys have on sunglasses at night or something, or did you have all of your eyes closed? That's crazy.
Yeah, it was pretty pathetic. I like being in Las Vegas with people that have spent time there and know what they're doing, which is not most of my people.
Yeah.
Well, you got to just hit us up next time. That's all. That's all, Dave.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
We took the bus out there, took a bunch of mushrooms, and that was really kind of a very kind of Hunter Thompson kind of experience.
Sounds like that was a fun party on that bus. It sounds like I missed it. But Dave, come on, you've been doing this for a long time. I would imagine you've had some crazy nights in this town. You got to give me something here. I mean, was it a crazy night at the strip club? I mean, you must have had some unbelievable nights here.
Yeah, I tend to sort of. It all kind of blurs together, I guess. I mean, I don't know. I love Las Vegas. I always have fun there, and I understand it's got to be kind of rough right now.
Yeah,
is it empty?
Yeah, the strip is closed, Dave. I mean, you want to talk about, the only restaurants that are open now are to go. There are no casinos open, no businesses are open right now, and it's a ghost town. It's like, you're in the middle of, Idaho.
Yeah, Dave, Brian and I took a drive down to the Strip and also downtown a couple times the last month or so, and it's an eerie feeling. I mean, it's just something, I assume it's the same thing whether you're in the Twin Cities or in Detroit or, cities around the country. It's just something that you've never seen before. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's ghost town. It's wild. I wanted to ask you one more musical question, and then I want to get to your new album. But when you're in the studio, or even when you're writing a song like a Runaway Train, Black Gold, I mean, you guys got so many great songs, but those are just a few of some of my favorites. When you're writing a song like that, or you're actually making the song in the studio, did you ever think to yourself, all right, this is going to be it? This could be the song that brings us to that next level. This is going to be a hit. Like, do you ever think like that when you're making a song like that? Did you ever have that premonition?
No, I didn't. I mean, I kind of fly pretty blind, and I didn't. I mean, we spent a lot of time working on that particular record, Grave Dancers Union. Yeah. So I knew that there was merit to it or whatever. I knew that I'd put a lot of work into it and that it sounded pretty good.
Sure.
But I didn't really have any idea. Mm-hmm. I mean, the first thing that I remember going, God, maybe something is going on here was I was looking for a manager, and he made it through the first chorus of Runaway Train, and he turned off the cassette player and went, I want to manage this band.
Whoa.
And that really took me, I was like, what? I didn't understand. So I mean, I guess he was thinking, he knew it was going to be a hit. Cha-ching.
Right. He knew that it was going to be a radio hit.
For a manager.
Right.
But,
well, smart guy, because he was right. He was right. That song made you guys a lot of money. I want to talk. We've asked you a lot of questions about the past. I want to talk now about the future and what you got going on right now, Dave, with this new Soul Asylum album, Hurry Up and Wait. Can you talk to me a little bit about this album? Does it contrast to some of the other Soul Asylum albums? Talk to me a little bit about that.
Well, it's funny because as I said, I'd been living in New Orleans for 17 years, so the band is now kind of what is that called? Not relocated, relocated back to Minneapolis.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we made the record at a studio that we actually cut our second record in. So it kind of came full circle in a way that I was back in Minneapolis. I'm working at a studio in Minneapolis where the atmosphere is very casual, I think is the right word. Whereas in the past we would go to New York or we'd go to LA and we'd spend a ton of money on hotels and this, that, and the other thing, extraneous expenses. And you're stuck to a very rigorous schedule. In this situation, we kind of worked when we wanted to. We kind of, okay, I got a few songs. All right, let's go in and cut a few songs. All right. So to that effect, it was really it was localized, and I think that had a positive effect on the music, and we were very unsupervised, which I think really helps.
That's a good thing. Yeah, that's a good thing. I think most musicians would agree that is a good thing when you're unsupervised and you're able to do your own thing and be creative and do what you want. Well, Dave, let me tell you, man, I've been a big fan of your music. I think I speak for all of us on the show for a very long time.
No question.
Glad you're still making music. Keep doing it, my friend. I think last time I saw you guys, was it at Top Golf? I'm trying to remember where I saw you. I think that's where it was. I saw a concert there, but you guys put on a great show. I've seen you guys probably over a dozen times in my life, and hopefully when all this crap is over with, look forward to seeing your band again come out to Las Vegas, and I'll try to give you some advice on what restaurants are open in your area.
We've got some good spots for you, Dave, to hit up,
Right
so
on,
we'll line you up.
Yeah.
And Dave, save some mushrooms for me. Save some of those mushrooms for me, okay?
Thanks,
Dave,
man.
I appreciate you coming on, my man.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you for your time.
All right, fellas. Take it easy. Have a good one.
All right. You
Yes,
too.
sir.
Thank you. Cool dude. Dave Pirner,
absolutely.
lead singer of the band Soul Asylum.